Hi everyone, I recently put out a 2-hour deep dive on the history of Shantae and all the games in the series, and a couple of quick videos to remind people about a sale for previous games. Unfortunately, the sale is now over, but for those that didn't watch the full episode yet, or those who will just appreciate the reminder, here is the really good news. There is a brand new Shantae game released on the eShop today, 19th of August, right now. But also, remember that if you want a physical copy of the game, they are available still to order, but just for a short period of time. You only have until the 7th of September to snag one for yourself. The full deluxe version of the game is only $35 for your physical copy. There's also some special editions and extra merch too if you want to get fancy, but nicely, those more expensive versions don't contain any extra game content, just fancier packaging and extra merch. So there is no price gouging. $35 gets you everything. This will be the last video that I put out about Shantae for a while. Sorry for those of you who've got fed up with them. Until my physical copy arrives, I won't mention it again, I promise. But I wanted to remind everyone about that physical pre-order, and for those that want to play right away, you can get the digital eShop version today. It's literally one of, if not the #1 most anticipated game for me on the Switch 1. So if you want to just know more, here is what I said about it in the full-length episode. Thanks, guys. So, now we are up to date, we can talk about the new game. New is very much in inverted commas because, as I've mentioned, this is actually the planned Game Boy Advance game, finally finished and released 22 years after it was cancelled. So that's why I kept saying the second game released, the third game released, etc. Because technically this should have been the second game, releasing it before Risky's Revenge. Now, what does that mean in practice? Well, firstly, we're going back to my favourite visual style for these games, the gorgeous 16 or even 32-bit style pixel art graphics of Pirate's Curse and Risky's Revenge. Shantae's sprite herself is pretty consistent in look over Risky's Revenge, Pirate's Curse, and now Risky's Revolution, making them a trilogy of sorts. The question comes as to where the storyline happens. Of course, when they originally developed the game, it would be following on from the original, like Risky's Revenge ended up being. Shantae's voice actor here is no longer Cristina Vee from the newer games, but goes back to Megan Glaser, using archive from the original development. These clips were the ones later used in Risky's Revenge, so it makes total sense, and I can't imagine that Cristina Vee would have been upset. This is a game that started development before she started voicing Shantae, after all. If anything, it would have been disrespectful to move Megan's work after all these years. But this is no mere find an old finished unreleased ROM and slap a release date on it. This game was clearly scrapped, or more likely repurposed, as Risky's Revenge, but then given this new opportunity to finally release a Game Boy game, WayForward have put a lot of work into changing, adding and improving. From looking at previews and playthroughs, this is far more advanced, no pun intended, than your typical Game Boy Advance game. And while WayForward have always pushed the limits of what's possible on older hardware, to me this screams of it has the benefit of modern tools, far more development time, and far more budget, and we've gone back and massively expanded it to make it the ultimate GBA Shantae. Now, when I say playthroughs, yes, it is possible to watch videos of people playing the entire game through from start to finish, because they actually released the full game on GBA carts earlier this year. A brand new game for the GBA in 2025. You'll love to see it. But for me personally, I've not really cared about playing the first versions of Shantae on their native handheld formats, GBC, DSi, 3DS. I prefer the big screen experience of the modern console or PC versions, and I always appreciate the higher resolution for the character art, the quality of life improvements. In this case, the new console and PC versions will have the option of playing the original GBA version or a modern mode that matches the style of the director's cut of Risky's Revenge and the Wii U versions and upwards of Pirate's Curse. There's new costumes not available in the GBA versions, and they even added a new multiplayer battle mode for up to 4 players, which is a first for the series, only previously being single-player adventures, so that's kind of neat. While I think it's super cool that they released an actual honest-to-goodness GBA cart, I have been waiting to own and play it on Switch because, as I said before, to me, the series feels the most home on a Nintendo system, and I love the fact that one console will have a proper physical copy of all 6 games, and one day they will all be mine. Oh yes, they will be mine. So, while I'm avoiding spoilers entirely here for the new game, I will say that the revolution in the title is the key distinction gimmick to set this one apart from the others. It's a 2D side-scroller as usual, but you have a foreground and background plane, which you can switch between by going through doors or gates, and you can rotate that background plane around to reposition it, so that going through a gate will take you to a different part of the level. It describes these as Shantae switching between the front yard and the backyard, which I think is cute. It looks really neat, and it adds an extra puzzle element to the gameplay, making it a unique standout among the series. You know how earlier I said that as a dev myself, and Shantae, especially the Pirate's Curse, was responsible for me starting to make my own pixel art Metroidvania starring a magical girl with purple hair? Well, it's still very much under development, and while it's far from a Shantae ripoff, it's a different character and setting, I actually saw the information about the cancelled Shantae game for the GBA, and I thought that this method of going through the doors or gates to move forward or backwards into the background or foreground layer, while remaining strictly 2D and not a 2.5D game, I thought it was really neat, and a shame that the game had been cancelled, so I actually adapted that into my own game. While I didn't take the rotation aspect of changing the layer, I added my own twist on it of being able to move time forward or backwards to make similar puzzles. But when my game eventually does come out, there will be elements definitely inspired by Risky's Revolution in there. I started making that game during lockdowns in 2020, and at the time I would have never dreamed that Risky's Revolution would ever get a release. I fully intended on mentioning to people when discussing the game that this element was a tribute to the tragically cancelled game. But it's so neat to me that it's being resurrected in such a spectacular fashion. I am so happy that it is getting a full release and even a full physical version at a very affordable price without a limited number of copies. It's just the best possible outcome I could have hoped for. The revolution aspect is used in a really cool way plot-wise too. Basically, Risky Boots the pirate is back to her old tricks again of plundering the villages of Sequin Land, but she's found a groundbreaking, groundbreaking new method of actually rotating the tectonic plates to shift the positions of the island. So instead of having to spend ages travelling between different islands, she can just stay still and make the islands come to her instead. It's a very cool and silly idea that allows us to see a new take on familiar settings. For example, the foreground and background of any given level might be from what would have been 2 separate towns in previous games. The only thing that makes me sad about this release is the way that WayForward's site describes this new game as the last chapter in the Shantae saga. I hope it's not the final Shantae game ever, but if it is, what a fitting swan song. But the last chapter wording is interesting. I mentioned how Half Genie Hero was a somewhat misguided attempt at a soft reboot, changing the story completely, and Seven Sirens could be considered a spin-off. The real Shantae story, in inverted commas, basically is Shantae, then Risky's Revenge, then Pirate's Curse, and the other 2 games are related but not really part of the storyline and continuity. And that totally makes sense. Pirate's Curse, as I mentioned, has several different endings, so it would be difficult to canonically continue from there. It's also the absolute pinnacle of the classic series, as good as the gaming pixel art and character art styles ever got, in my opinion, so it kind of makes sense for it to be the end of that trilogy, so to speak. But Risky's Revolution was always meant to be part of that series too. Originally, it would have been the second game in the continuity, but as I said, WayForward have clearly gone back and added and updated a lot from their original work, so describing it as the final chapter makes me wonder if now it canonically happens after Pirate's Curse, or maybe even after Seven Sirens, and ties up some loose ends to make that game and maybe Half Genie Hero feel more part of the same storyline too? I don't know. I'm really interested in seeing how it all plays out. Yes, I could just watch playthroughs of people playing the GBA version already out to find out, but no, I want to wait and play it for myself. I did sneak a look because I'm hyped and super curious, obviously, but I just randomly flicked around to get the idea of the size, the variety, the sprite work, etc. I didn't read anything related to plot, so no spoilers in the comments, please. So, on to where to buy the game. The digital version is live on the eShop now. You can't pre-order it, but it shows the release date as the 19th of the month at just $25. For a brand new game at this level of quality, that is a bargain. Interestingly, it's $5 cheaper than the MSRP of Half Genie Hero Ultimate and Seven Sirens, which are both $30, and it's $5 more than Pirate's Curse at $20, though reduced to $15 and $10 each respectively if you buy them before the sale ends, as I said. Like Pirate's Curse, it's rated T for teens, so it's probably a similar level of suggestive humour and sexy cheesecake posing. It takes up 503 megabytes, so basically half a gig, no worries. But as we've discussed, with Shantae, often the smart money is on picking up the physical version while you can get them at a reasonable price. Pre-orders are live now with no limit to how many copies. They won't sell out if you don't buy immediately right now. However, they do close the open pre-order on September the 7th, so you must buy it before then, or else you'll probably have to risk eBay scalpers. So that's what's motivated me to make this episode now, to give you all a heads up rather than wait for the review, by which time pre-orders will be over, as will the sale. One of Shantae's animal transformations is an elephant, and I guess we should mention the elephant in the room. See what I did there? The physical version is from Limited Run Games. Now, I want to be clear, this video is in no way sponsored by Limited Run. They do sponsor YouTubers, that's not what's happening here. Nor is it sponsored by WayForward or anyone else. I have no financial stake in making this video whatsoever. I'm not even getting a free review copy or anything like that. I just want to signal boost the game because it's a game that I am super hyped about in a series that I genuinely love. Now, I know that for some people, Limited Run is a slightly controversial company, mostly because some games they've previously taken pre-orders for have taken a long time to come out with delays, and there have been some controversies with specific titles. For example, I remember a 3DO game that came on a CDR rather than a pressed disc, which people felt should have been made clear. However, for me, as both a collector of indie and retro titles and a developer of small indie games myself, I'm very glad that Limited Run exists and grateful for what they have done and continue to do for the industry. There are now nearly 300 games that would have never got physical copies without them, not to mention all the other small print run companies that started to appear after they showed the way. Honestly, without them, there might not have been the thriving indie game and small print run collectors market, which made the Switch such an incredible system to collect for. And in recent times, they've really been going above and beyond in not just putting out physical copies of existing digital games, but actually bringing back cancelled games or allowing devs to make new, improved versions of their old titles, or partially funding games that are half finished. I am sure that WayForward wouldn't have gone back and finished Risky Revolution without Limited Run's backing and support. So I am very, very grateful. Sure, they aren't a perfect company, I wouldn't claim otherwise, but they should be absolutely commended for what they have done here in this case. And with this release, they are doing it right, in my opinion. As I mentioned, there is no limit on the open pre-order, so no scrambling around trying to order and missing out because they all sell out in minutes or the website crashes like what happened to me with some of the previous games. This way, everyone that wants a copy can get one at a normal retail price. There are more expensive editions and extra merch available, which I will get to, but what's important to note is that the more expensive versions do not contain extra game content. This is not like the recent Sega, EA, 2K, etc. Switch games where they are deluxe versions, ultimate versions, etc. And if you want the whole game, you have to pay over $100. No, even the cheapest version is the full best version of the game. The more expensive versions just add more merch and stuff. It's pretty simple, but there is a small confusing discrepancy between the wording between the digital and physical versions, i.e. how WayForward are describing the digital versions and how Limited Run are describing the physical versions. So that's what I'm letting you know here. It's important to be clear on it. The digital version of the game is $25, as I mentioned. But there will be DLC available for that digital version, a costume pack with 3 alternate costumes for Shantae, which give her slightly different magic stats. They look cute and fun. No price has been given for this DLC yet, but the Way Forward site does mention that there will be a deluxe version that includes the DLC. Again, I'm talking about digital for the deluxe version. As for physical, the cheapest version, which don't forget includes everything. The more expensive versions are exactly the same game content, just with extra merch. The cheapest version physically costs just $35. On the limited run website, this is called the standard edition because it's the cheapest one without the extra stuff. But it includes the deluxe version of the game on the cartridge, i.e. the DLC is on the cart. There is no physical version without the DLC. Thank you. On this channel, I often rant about how I hate when physical copies don't include DLC, especially if it's day one DLC. Again, we don't know the price of the DLC or deluxe versions if you're buying digitally yet. Presumably we'll find out soon, but I would assume that the DLC will be $10 and the deluxe version will be $35 to match the price of the physical version. So, for $35, you get a lovely physical boxed copy of the game for Switch, or if you prefer, PS4, PS5, Xbox, PC. As always with the Shantae games, the box art is gorgeous, and it will look beautiful if you want to display it, darling. That version contains, as I said, the deluxe version, all of the DLC. But Limited Run is slightly confusingly labeling this physical copy of the deluxe version as the standard edition. This is the one that I'm ordering. I imagine this is the one that most people will order. It is a great price for a great game, and the Switch box will match all of the Switch boxes of all the other titles nicely on the shelf. I honestly think that the way both Way Forward and Limited Run are handling this release is commendable. Great price, no price gouging. $35 is more than fair. Everything on the cart, awesome. As for concerns about when the physical copies will arrive, yes, there have been problems with some previous games from Limited Run arriving very late. But in the case of this game, they're saying that the estimated shipping date is January 6th to January 20th next year. Frankly, I think this is reasonable, given that it is an open pre-order and they're only making as many copies that are ordered, so there would be no way for them to manufacture in advance. Advance. No pun intended. The question becomes, will I be able to wait until January in order to play my physical copy, or will I double dip and buy the digital copy to play in the meantime? I am super hype. But we've already waited 22 years for this game to release. What's 4 more months? I don't know. I guess wait and see. If a review pops up on this channel before January, it's because I caved in and bought it digitally while I wait for my physical copy. So that's probably all that most of you need to know. If it's only the game itself that you care about, the maximum that you need to spend for everything is $35. But some of you will be wondering about the more expensive options that I mentioned, so let's just run through it quickly. There is a classic edition, in inverted commas, which is $65. That's $30 more than the standard edition. It contains the standard edition, obviously, but it also includes a larger holofoil box that looks a bit like a giant GBA box, and contains a soundtrack CD and a steelbook. The cardboard box has the same art as the standard edition, the CD cover art is the same too, and the steelbook is just a simple design of Shantae by herself. Personally, I don't think that any of this extra stuff justifies that extra cost, especially with the large box. I would have hoped for more inside of it. At least an art book, some stickers, a keyring. Add a plushie or a minifigure and I would have absolutely dropped the extra $30 without question. But for me, I don't know, it's a little steep, although not completely overpriced or anything. At $65, it's still much cheaper than the average third-party Switch 2 game is nowadays. It's just that, to me, the $35 standard edition is much more tempting, as it is just only the physical game that I care about out of all of this stuff. The soundtrack is obviously going to be good. The soundtracks are always good, but when it's just a CD and it looks like it's just in a cardboard sleeve or maybe a digipack, I don't know, there's not enough there to make it worth the extra cost to me. There's an even more expensive version, however, which is a lot more tempting to me because of what they included. It's just a pretty high price. It's called the Revolutionary Edition. It comes with the previously mentioned holo box, steelbook and soundtrack CD, but also 6 art prints, a metal keyring that looks like a GBA card. That's kind of cool. 50 trading cards, each with different character art. I do like the look of those. A Shantae pixel art light, which is really neat. I'd love that on my game shelves. And a super cute plushie of the Squid Baron character, who is completely adorable. It all comes in another, even bigger cardboard box with an individually numbered certificate of authenticity. Now, as I said, this is actually much cooler to me, although, again, I still wish there was an art book, but I guess the art prints are nice. My only issue is the price. It is $175. I don't have infinite money, and I also don't have infinite space for storing these special editions that come in enormous oversized boxes. It's not just like the kind of PC big box collecting. No, these boxes are huge. So I have to limit how many of these kind of collector's editions I buy. And the way I always think about it is, if the items included were available to purchase separately, would I want to buy them, and what would they be worth to me? Well, I would happily pay $20, maybe $25 maximum each for the plushie and the lamp. Maybe $10 for the pack of cards, perhaps $5 for the keyring. I don't really care about the rest. So, if it's including the $35 physical game as well, that's maybe max $100 that I'd realistically be willing to pay. So $175 isn't a bad price by any means, and it is a really nice package. I especially like the look of that plushie and that lamp, but I don't know, I think I can live without it for now, unless I do get a big payday between now and 7th of September, in which case, frankly, I would probably keep the plushie and the lamp and sell the rest of the extra stuff separately. Maybe I keep the cards as well. But I will say that if you are feeling flush, if the extra cost is fine to you and you have the storage space, this Revolutionary Edition does seem far better value than the Classic Edition, as it contains far more unique, cool stuff to display than that $65 edition. It's just that, again, the most important thing really is the physical copy of the game itself, and when that's only $35, spending $175 just because I kind of want the plushie and the lamp and some cards, I don't know, it's hard to justify, isn't it? There is also separate merch available for those that want it. There's a Tinkerbat design baseball cap for $32, a t-shirt for $30 to $35, depending on your size. These are pretty cool, I guess, but not unique enough designs to make me sit up and take notice at those kind of prices. There's custom card sleeves to protect your cards for $6, or a card binder for $20 to keep them organized. Honestly, this is pretty cool, and it does appeal to the kind of collector's nature of when I was young and I used to collect cards or stickers. But it does seem a little like an overpriced upsell for those already buying the $175 version that comes with the cards to go in them. So honestly, it probably should have come with that more expensive edition. This is a $20 or a $26 upsell, and I don't know. If they sold the cards separately, I would totally buy the folder at least, though. I think it looks cool. The soundtrack is available on double vinyl for $40 in black or $50 in a limited edition purple, only 500 of those being made. Shantae music, as I said, is always awesome, and of course vinyl is more collectible and also more expensive to produce than the CDs, which are included in the other editions. So sure, if you specifically collect vinyl, I can see the appeal in these. It's about standard price for a short run double vinyl. And it's nice to have the cover art so large in a way that is less cumbersome to store and display than the massive boxes of the special editions. But where they really have my attention is for just $30, there is a Risky Boots plushie. She looks the same style and size, I think, and I hope at least, as the previously released Shantae plushie that came with certain retail editions of Seven Sirens. And the $30 for a completely custom limited edition plushie with the kind of detail that you see on Risky Boots is pretty reasonable. The Squid Baron plushie that's included in the $175 issue is a lot simpler of a character with a lot less detail. Risky Boots is a humanoid character, so a lot more complicated with her costume and things. I am very, very tempted to buy her to sit next to my Shantae that I already have. While I don't think that Limited Run have managed to tempt me with the other special editions of the games, I'm not sure I'll be able to resist the upsell of a cute little Risky Boots to be friends with my Shantae and sit guarding my games. She is adorable. I haven't pre-ordered her yet, but I will almost certainly cave before the 7th of next month. So that is all that we need to cover, really. TLDR, $35 for a physical copy of the new game, but you only have until the 7th of next month, so get your pre-order in now. Obviously, I'll put the links in the description and pinned comments. These aren't affiliate links. This isn't a sponsored video. I'm just signal boosting here because I want to get the word out so people don't miss out. And if they decide they want it later, they end up having to pay more money. Let me know in the comments what your favourite Shantae game is, if you're going to be pre-ordering this new one, and if so, which version. I'm really interested to know. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and come and join our free special members area where you can chat with me, request games and topics to cover, and enter our free monthly giveaways to win official Nintendo prizes. Linktree/DailySwitch2, linktr.ee/DailySwitch2. You can even, if you want, request a free MP3 of my terrible singing there if you want. Many apologies to Virt and Cristina Vee for murdering your song. It was fun though. Later, guys.
So I will make this Shantae podcast. I hope some people will hear it. I will forge my path to 1,000 subs. I ask you, help me survive. Please like and subscribe so I can beat the algorithm. And all of this AI slop, I spend way too long making these stupid songs, but I hope to put a smile on your face.
Well, that was funny /sad /informative /stupid, wasn't it? Feel free to mentally redact to make that make sense with the clip that you just heard. I don't know what it was. I'm just recording a bumper. But if you enjoyed the clip, please give it a like. If you'd like to hear more, click subscribe, and you can find all the ways to listen to and support the full daily podcast at linktree/DailySwitch2. That's linktr.ee/DailySwitch2. Let's go! Did I sound like I mean that? I do. I really do.